What's going on, everybody? It's Lenny with Last Line Tactical. Today, I wanted to discuss a topic that isn't really discussed but needs to be known, especially for firearm owners and if you're looking to get into firearm ownership. Um, and that topic is going to be the responsibility of actually carrying a firearm. Now, a lot of people, when they're carrying firearms, they all of a sudden turn into Billy Badass. They want to be a hero. They walk around with their chest out. Some even maybe start trouble. When in all reality, as firearm owners, we're held at a higher standard. And that higher standard is we are supposed to avoid conflict first and foremost, right? We're not supposed to go looking for it just because we have a firearm on us. And then on top of that, we have to gather enough information before actually utilizing our firearm, whether it's to defend ourselves or to defend somebody else before actually pulling that trigger. Because if you do not do that, it can land you in prison for a very long time. I'll give you an example, right? Let's say you're walking out of Walmart or whatever store you shop in, and you see two people arguing, right? You can't hear what they were arguing about. They were already in the middle of the argument, and then all of a sudden you see a man holding a knife. Again, you did not see the beginning of this conflict or confrontation, but now you see this unfolding and you think to yourself, hey, that woman's in trouble. Let me go ahead and neutralize the threat. Okay, so you get closer if you choose to, you pull your weapon and you fire upon that man. Now, let's rewind a bit. You didn't know the situation that was going on, right? So now let's say the store cameras or whatever the actual story may be was that the woman was the aggressor. The woman pulled the knife out on the man. The man was able to disarm the woman, and then they continued to have an argument after the woman was already disarmed. So the woman was the actual assailant, but you just possibly murdered a man for defending himself and disarming the actual threat. These are the things that you have to be aware of when you're carrying firearms, because nobody's going to tell you this. So many people just get their firearms license, or in some states don't even have to do that anymore. They just carry firearms around and they do not know the ins and outs of the law. In that situation, that person, you, would be going to prison, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You murdered an innocent man because you thought what you saw was the entire picture. If you don't have the entire picture of any situation, then you need to be very, very careful on what you actually draw and or use your weapon for. We've seen this plenty of times with, civilians, and obviously we see it all the time with police. If they don't have the entire situation, if they don't have all of the information, all they have to go on is what they currently see. And there's wrongful shooting deaths all the time, unfortunately. As a civilian, well, we don't have the shield that most police do when those things occur. So, as firearm owners, as civilian firearm owners, we need to be more cognizant of what's going on around us and not be so gun happy, because this is real life. This is not video games. You cannot be Captain Save Everybody, because at the end of the day, if you don't have all the information needed to take that shot or to utilize deadly force on somebody else, you are going to go to prison. Your family is going to lose you because you tried to save somebody else who might not have even been in danger. Here's another example. If you're just out and about, right, and somebody says something that you don't like, and your response is to escalate the situation, right? You could have walked away. You could have not said anything to that person, right? They were not a threat to you or your family. They said some words to you. Now you escalate the situation, right? And let's say they end up coming up on you and you end up punching them in the face, and now y'all are tussling. Okay, so now you guys are having a fight. And since you have a firearm on you, you pull your firearm and you shoot this person. You escalated the situation in a way that you had a chance to de-escalate. You are held to a much higher standard than anybody else, than a normal civilian that didn't have a firearm is. You have to understand that concept when you carry firearms, when you are a law abiding citizen. Because if you start a problem and that problem escalates to the point where you have to use your firearm, chances are you were in the wrong. Chances are a prosecutor is going to be able to prove that you were in the wrong and you are going to go to prison. All because you thought that you were Billy Badass because you now carry a gun. Don't be that guy. Okay, again, as firearm owners, we are held to a much higher standard by society and by the law to look to de escalate a situation, look to escape a situation that we may actually have to use our firearms for. Our firearms are not a, you know, are not a badge. Okay, our firearms don't make us top flight security of the world. All right. We are not out here to play hero for everybody. Right. Again, if there's a situation that calls for you using your firearm, then absolutely make sure you gather all the information that you possibly can and then utilize your firearm in a lawful manner. That's why we carry. But you have to be careful because there's a very thin line between self-defense or defense of others and a very long prison sentence. Again, this is Lenny with Last Line Tactical. Train, execute, survive.